Okay, maybe in my great-grandfather's time. I'm not too certain about. Kempville is their home area in Canada. And my mother
in the early days, my mother came down by stagecoach
7 miles
from Winnipeg.
Down the river.
And the only way you could get here was either by stagecoach or you could go.
As the saying is, always a black sheep in the family, and my dad was one. So that's how I come up here. We come up in 1912 at Carlson. It was just like birds.
I came to the States
first. Shoot rabbits in there with a slingshot.
I had taken up the homestead
like that.
1906, and the same year.
Yes, it's a wonderful country to live in. It's yes, it'll take me 60 years to tell you all this story, everything that happened in the 60 years.
We heard from a casual acquaintance that the mines were going to open up, and this chap had decided he was going to try and get a job with the mining industry. My partner and I decided it was good enough for him.
What brought me here?
Crack at it.
I was through high school,
So
and my dad
got
had
off
sent
the
me
freight train at Sudbury,
to
the
university, and
employment
then
office,
the hard times started coming along, and he couldn't keep me in
arrived there
university.
at 4 o'clock
And I
in
was
the
staying
morning.
with a girlfriend of mine in Winnipeg.
3
So we
o'clock
were looking for a job, so we saw this
following afternoon, they opened the
advertisement that
doors.
said it needed a
My
girl
partner
for
and I
a
were among the
clerk
first ones
in the
in,
store, and it needed a waitress.
and luckily
Well,
we were
I'm
hired
not quite
right away.
18.
Well,
So we went
I
to
left
the
high school in
university.
1930, and things were kind of
We both
tough.
signed up.
It was called a
My
depression.
mother wouldn't let her go.
So the highest wages that anybody could get was working in a gold mine.
So I came.
So I started working in a gold mine in 1933, and it was an exciting
Met my
thing,
husband eventually.
and it paid good money.
Got married. I had to wait till I was 18.
So once I got started, I stayed with it, and that's 44 years ago.
You see,
You have to consider that Northern Ontario is different from the Maritimes, Newfoundland, and Quebec, and Appalachian Mountains and places like that. That most of the people that live here are first or second generation. And those generations, that means they came from somewhere else. They came from the States, they came from overseas. But it's hard, you see, like, in Northern Ontario, it's spread out. Also, you get French-speaking, English-speaking people. And you get a lot of first-generation immigrants over here.
The North Shore boys are all in line from Lake and Woods and Forest and Mine. We're out on a trip to cross the Rhine. For men of the North are we. We're here, we're here, we're here, we're here. For men of the North are we.
And I started sailing when I was, quite a young fellow.
They just went
Sailed
sailing
on
as
tugs
a
on the Georgian
means of
Bay.
livelihood, that's all. When the
Rode
boats
logs
were more
for
plentiful,
years
a lot of
for
them from
McFadden.
here went sailing. But, gosh, you could pretty nearly count in your two hands the number that go sailing from here now.
You know, in the old sailing days, the sailing scooters would just go out when I went on the lake. But still there was none of them. But you know, there used to be big ham lots of times out there when there's no wind, you see. And of course, when they got their deck work done and all, the sailors would all get around in some place, the ones that wasn't sleeping. So then they'd sing. You know, there was lots of them ditties. You see, when they had them old sailboats, it was all handwork. There was a tow line about 4 inches, you know, and they'd have to go out and pull that all in by hand. Well, the mate would generally sing a rhyme. All on the toll line, Katie is my dial line. All on the toll line, all. And we'll all haul together and we'll haul for one another. And it's all on the toll line, all.
The ships, when they were getting ready to sail, they would fly right over the bow. They had this blue Peter flag. And the fellows coming down with their pack sacks, they would just walk down the quays, you see. Any ships, they could tell, any ships with the blue Peter flying, they were ones that were going out soon. They were taking on crews, you see. It was blue in center and then had a white border. And he was getting ready to sail. When she blew the whistle to let go the last line, there was a fellow there to pull it down on a CPR boat, always right here in Port Arthur. I've seen it so many times.
There's a big boat in Kenora called the Kenora. From here it would go to Rainy River because they'd take supplies down there because there was no railroad at that time. Oh, it was a nice boat. Quite a thrill to see it coming in off the lake. The kids, they'd hear the whistle blow at the gap and everybody would head for the lake to watch the first to see the Kenora, first to see the Kenora. You know, the kids would all be yelling this when they got down. It's quite an event to see it go by.
Oh gosh, as everybody in town went down to see the boat when it came in. The only link we had with the outside world, to see what everybody looked like. And back in the days of a passenger boat, you know, that's the way people took their holiday. CPR used to have some beautiful boats.
That was the highlight of the day when the American boat arrived. The Indians came over from the island, and they brought their baskets and their beadwork and everything, and they sat along the edge of the dock, and the Americans really liked their stuff, and they bought it, and it was authentic Indian craft. Made, handmade, right over there on the island. They'd dress up in their Indian costume and come over the day the boat was in. And one day, they say it was Jonas King, but I showed it to an Indian friend of mine, and he said, no, that's my father. His name is Charlie King. He came over with his headdress on and his buckskin suit, his tomahawk. The Americans would throw money to them. So he got on the dock and he started just going on the dock, you know, and the ship was there and the people around and all that, and everybody was clapping. So somebody standing there took off their hat and started going around like this, and Charlie was bouncing up and down like their war dance, and people were dropping money in the hat. Let's say there was a handful of coins in the hat, eh? So he finished, and everybody clapped, you know, for the dance. He did that. Then the guy came over and handed old Jonas or Charlie the hat and said, there you are, and that was his reward, eh? He looked in the hat and appreciated that there wasn't much money in it. And the guy said to him, well, Jonas, what are you going to do now that you've got all that money? So old Jonas looked in the hat and he said, well, I think I'll starve a little. I think I'll starve a little.
But I used to like sticking my head out a porthole window at the front of the boat, you know, at the bow, and down below the upper deck, and watching bow cutting through, especially the water in Lake Superior. It's the funniest looking thing it was to me that I ever saw in all my life. That water just looked black, and when it cut and turned over, you know, it was snow white, and I couldn't understand it, and cold. We used to have that in the shower. There were no heated showers there. You got the water out of the lake. And my God, you step under that shower and it'd knock you right cold. It was just like ice. And I got used to it, you know. I'd duck under and get a blast from that shower, and then I'd jump back out. Gradually got used to it, and I'd stand under there, and I had goose pimples all over me. And then I used to do my own mending. That's where I learned to mend socks, you know. And old Dougal, he was the first mate on the boat. He came along one day when I was sitting up on the deck and on one of the seats there and was mending the socks. And he says, can you sew? Oh, I said, sure. No, I did a pretty fair job, you know. He says, would you mend some socks for me? I said, sure. And I never would have no deal made or anything. And he brought me up 4 pair of socks, I remember. They had holes in them, and well, I says, I'll start on them as soon as I get through mine. Oh, he says, there's no hurry. He says, I've got lots more. So I mended them for him, and you know, that old son of a gun of a Scotchman, he was Scotch too. He gave me a nickel a pair for mending them socks. Well, that don't seem like much now, but that was quite a bit for him to pay me for that, for mending socks.
And the boats didn't have the radar and the radios and the wireless that they have nowadays. And they just had to guess whether a storm was coming. Lots of times they got caught in some of those ones that come up pretty quick. And I remember one time that I think there must have been 8 boats that went down in a storm up in Lake Superior.
When they pulled into the dock at man morning, there was somebody had standing on the dock, and they hollered up to Harry, said that his wife was sick and wanted him at home. So he went to the captain. Well, the captain says, you better go. He said, we'll pick you up on the way back. Never came back. They sunk someplace down in Georgian Bay.
My mother was born in 1975 and came up here when she was 3 years old. Their boat was wrecked on Manitou Rock, somewhere off the Manitoulin Island. So far as I know, there was no loss of life. Mother used to talk about the They were fast on the rock, and it was thought the boat was foundering. There were some cattle on board that they were bringing up to start their new settlements, you see. The cattle, they got the cattle off the boat, and they swam ashore. They got the women and children into the lifeboats, and they got to shore first, and afterwards they were able to rescue the men who were on board. And mother had, even at 3 years, had a faint recollection of the women and children singing to keep their spirits up, I suppose, that old song of the sea, pull for the shore, sailor, pull for the shore.
The sailor's ball was the social event of the year. Anybody that had a job as a sailor worked for this big dance, and the whole island came. And it was like nose to nose. And they decorated the whole community hall with ship's lights and steering wheels and ropes and knots, and everybody dressed straight to the nines. So if you missed the sailor's ball, you were right out of the social scene for that season.
Then in the wintertime, the sailors used to put on a big dance for entertainment. They'd have the hall all decorated up with looking like a boat. Gosh, they danced there from 8 o'clock till 4 in the morning. They'd have one group to play for the square dancing, and the other group play for the round dancing. Well, like waltzes and foxtrots. And, oh gosh, yes, I never missed any. Oh, they stopped a few years ago when, because the sailors have gone down. See, there's not the number go sailing now that did. My gosh, there'd be about 50 fellows left here every spring to go on those boats.
I can remember one night I was on the old Cambria and we came in. It was quite a wind across the channel that night, and our captain came in, Captain Telford. He tied up to the dock, and the city of Midland, old Captain of France, came in later, and the wind was blowing off the dock, and he had a great time docking. He tried to dock at the end, and we were at the side of the dock where he generally docked, you see. Our captain went over. When they threw out the heaving line, he said, "I'll take your line, Captain." They threw out this heaving line, you see, and it missed the dock. It just hit, you know, and went down, and gee, he had to take another time at it. And eventually, he yelled down to Telford. He said, "What the hell are you doing there with that steamboat anyway? Why aren't you out in the lake there making money for your owner?" He thought he owned the whole lake, you know, La France. I knew him, but oh gosh, he couldn't read nor write. His whiskers, the mustache, you know, very French style. You would think an admiral in the French Navy or something like that, you know.
Some fellow had fallen overboard off the boat, and he also, I guess, had too much to drink, and of course he drowned. And it was a Sunday morning. Of course, the boat ran on Sundays. It ran the whole 7 days of the week, you know. And there were quite a few women down there, I guess, seeing some people away. Just as they hauled this fella up, one of these women, she was quite a temperance woman, she looks at him and she's, "Now that's the result of too much drink." Dave looked at her and he said, Hell, I'd say it was the result of too much water.
Oh boy, I enjoyed myself. Not wearing a hat, my hair got so darn wiry that, well, one barber did, he wouldn't cut my hair anymore. It dulled his scissors. It was so thick it was just like wire. In fact, he said it must be wire.
Down by the wire shore, I tagged with the wonder. One side to the building, and the sea. I found that the major starting on. He climbed to the rock on the winding shore. My key doctor down to the same ship to sail. Down to the Liverpool, you're at the sea. Oh, the wind of the sky and the land of the sea. All our hearts travel our place and day. Night is commanding dark, wet and gray. Oh, the wind of the rose so tired of the sky. cries my brave boys must follow home. For tonight I was near with all separate hands. Some from the bended knees while hurling throwing, while others stood like sad in despair. For the streets were rolling and the table was swelling. Oh, I began to behind them all. Threw off the long those fronts in the open. And then one again was my Caribbean knee. And before it's the shore we were all overwhelmed. 48 poor bodies in the deep sea to fly. My way stood beside me to guide and protect me. We learned that we sailed from the Irish upland shore. And the stars which were father, he wouldn't like to take me. Oh, I begun to behind the more. And now I'm left a poor foreign stranger. I'm still in my broken body shore. I'm a begging my brethren on hard to stranger. I'm heaven but down on my poor and me.